Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Loads of drama in the Call of Duty community over the last 24 hours or so. Scrappy calling out certain players for potentially cheating in the CDL using the soundness equalization. But also, many believe that Dashy is not just the best player on the OpTic team right now, but potentially the best player in the entire game. Will he be able to keep up this unbelievable level going forwards? And if he can't, will the rest of OpTic be able to step up to the plate? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. This is kind of funny yesterday from Swag. Despite the fact that FaZe just won an event, iLLeY to FaZe is still a very real option that I can see happening. This team with iLLeY is better than this team with Sasha. And as Sasha says, appreciate the laugh this morning. Twitter needs more comedians like yourself. And Octane's like, yeah, very real option, Sasha. Watch out for that one. Also, just wanted to mention, I thought this is kind of hilarious to look at, really. So we know that Krim is now this R1 driver. I'm pretty sure this weekend, right, he's going to be in Katowice for this racing sim tournament that is going on. And there's obviously other esports teams getting involved in this, not just FaZe. But also, I just happened to stumble across this yesterday, that Mercedes esports are also getting involved. And these guys, I don't really follow esports or sim racing particularly closely, but I know of James Baldwin at least. I know of this Bono guy. And these guys are legit sim racers. These guys are seriously quick. And these are one of the teams representing Mercedes AMG that Krim will be facing up against. Hopefully he's not too far off the pace. Well, we'll see how it goes for Krim, but he's certainly being, trial by fire here, as arguably is Ghosty on the OpTic side at the moment. But at least Ghosty has experience playing Call of Duty at a very high level, whereas Krim doesn't necessarily have the same thing on the sim racing side of the argument. Now, we've got to talk about this Scrappy drama then from, as even as Bance tweeted this out last night, from the soundness or loudness equalization part of the story. So this has been a big talking point the last couple of weeks. He was even on the flank desk or the flank couch right at the major, and we were discussing this, and he said at the time that on LAN, they've disabled the loudness equalization settings. This is a setting that apparently some players have used for quite some time. There's been some rumors going around. I forget who exactly said it, but someone said that Owakening has been using this since Cold War or something, and no one really understood what it did until now. So you can find this in your Windows audio settings, and it just boosts up the low volume sound, so you can hear footsteps from miles away, and basically just need no brain at all to figure out where people are. You can just hear them all the time. Now, the CDL decided, and the pros obviously don't like this, but it's kind of difficult to tell if people are actually using it or not. So the CDL decided at the major to actually disable this setting on all of the PCs, so nobody can use it on LAN. So there's an argument that some players got exposed without this, or who knows, right? There weren't too many crazy results in terms of teams placing where you wouldn't expect them to, but and even if there were other maybe explanations for that fact. But Scrappy believes that certain people are definitely going to get exposed by this one. And as Scrappy says, if you use loudness equalization online when you know it can't be used on LAN, you're terrible, have a good one. This is the big argument that's going on right now, and as Parasite says, agree that people will simply use it to gain an advantage online is too important. And this, I think, is the problem, right? That online is arguably, and probably is, more important than the LAN matches. You get 10 points per online victory, and let's say you win 3 out of your 5 matches, that's a good 30 points. You only get 30 points if you place, I think, top 4 at the major, which is quite the placing, actually, to achieve. Third gets 40 points, second gets 50 points, and first gets 65 points. So I think the point standings are the same this year. Maybe they gave some more points for the winner of the major nowadays. But nonetheless, online is still massively important to such an extent that players would rather play a game that they're not playing at LAN just so they get a marginal competitive advantage online and potentially get exposed on LAN, but still get more points, right? And this is the thing, right, where arguably these online matches should be worth significantly less, or LAN should be worth significantly more, or online matches are worth 5 points, not 10. I don't know. But this is the issue, right? The players would rather get smoked on LAN potentially by not playing a game they're used to, but still win 3 or 4 of their online qualifier matches every stage due to this competitive advantage, such that they get enough points to qualify for the World Championship, right? And that is the issue, right? And as Scrappy says, some people would do anything for the 10 points. Going on to say this, and Azuma says, no way people are using that in scrims. I think there was a tweet the other day from a Changes player maybe, who hopped back into their very first set of scrims since the major, and already the other team was straight back on the loudest equalization. Despite having turned it off on LAN, they're now straight back on that online. So, a lot of people would consider this borderline cheating. It's not banned by the thing is that's funny to me, obviously the CDL turned it off on LAN, so it implies that it's kind of banned, right? If the CDL is coming out and saying, you know what guys, you can't use this on LAN, we're going to turn it off on the PCs, then surely it's basically banned from able to be used. Now, they can't exactly control this when the players are playing from home and online, but still, the CDL should probably put it in the rulebook, right? That this isn't allowed, we're going to disable it on LAN, and if you're caught using this even online, then you're going to get banned or something like that, suspended, who knows. So, yeah, feel a bit of a strange one to me, the fact that players are openly using this online, despite the fact that it's clearly not allowed. And even as Octane says, I thought was pretty interesting as well, like he didn't read that sport on LAN, and as Octane goes on to say, people seemed way less aware on LAN when it mattered. I don't know though, can't put my finger on it. So pretty interesting that Octane saying that one of the reasons why he was just running through people there in the losers bracket at the major was because, yeah, they were just way less aware. They didn't have the free sound glitch that gave them all the free information, and therefore certain teams maybe took advantage of that, despite the fact that Toronto arguably are actually significantly worse on LAN than they ended up being online. And even as Bance goes on to say, from the Rokkr side, people playing 2 different games online to LAN, this sound setting is so fugazi. So it's interesting that we get a lot of people from Thieves, from I don't really know about FaZe, but from Toronto and from Rokkr saying that some people, and even FaZe actually saying the replies, a bunch of sound cheesers out here. So clearly FaZe probably aren't using it, Toronto aren't using it, Minnesota aren't using it, and Thieves aren't using it. So who else is using it right and left in the league? Maybe there are some teams still abusing it for every advantage they can get. But you can understand, if you're a team like Vegas, like it's tough for you at the best of times online anyway, and you need to do well online to actually qualify well for LAN and in the winners brackets. So you can understand why teams might be incentivized to abuse this, but it's still not ideal. And even this other was pretty funny from Rokkr. POV used loudest equalization, and obviously Octane and Scrappy having a bit of a replies here in the replies to this, of course. Now let's talk about the OpTic side of the story. It's been a massive topic of discussion over there over the last few days. This image courtesy of and from the rotation, a beautiful image of these 3 guys that are now the only 3 left on the OpTic team, of course, with Ghosty now joining in. Dashy individually started out the year pretty lackluster, to be honest, but lately he's been out of control. The major he had a phenomenal performance going into the major as well, dropping some crazy numbers against FaZe, winning series hands down, like getting crucial kills at incredibly important times, and Dashy's been pretty much the hard carry of OpTic lately. Shotzzy, when you watch him, he looks great, but in terms of actually being as impactful as he could be, okay, he's a very impactful player, but he's probably not quite playing A+ Call of Duty at the moment this season compared to a guy like Dashy is over the last couple of months or so. The question that's been raised though, is Dashy the best player in the world right now? We talked not that long ago about Hydra from the subliners. Of course, aBeZy's been playing out of his mind as well. There's some other candidates in the equation. Even Pred has been unbelievable, but of course, if your team is not doing so well, difficult to really put him so much in the conversation. But Dashy's certainly there in terms of an AR role, and even Aix was suggesting, right, can you believe it, that at the major, he was the best player in the venue, pretty much hands down, saying that Dashy has been the absolute hard carry for OpTic and is playing, in Doug's opinion, at peak high performances. We know that Dashy was pretty much at his best, we could say, back in Black Ops 4. Dashy in that season was crazy. Dashy even in World War II on Complexity was crazy as well. Since then, we've seen glimpses of Dashy, and sometimes we've seen Dashy be unbelievable for a stretch of time, but this is arguably the best we've ever seen of him, and that's certainly what Doug believes.
Nah,
Look,
bro.
I want to start on this, man, because I gotta say that about Dashy, first of all, Jesus Christ, dude. Look, I've teamed with Dashy. Jesus Christ. Go back on YouTube and type in Rise Nation versus Complexity World War II when we 3-0'd the team that was the best in the league. And look at what Dashy did in the series. The guy was doing that this entire event. He definitely took what Seth said to heart in his retirement video. He wants to be that guy that's stepping up for the team. He was on a mission.
He might have been the best player in the venue.
I've seen the best of Brandon. I've seen the best of Brandon in Rise Nation in that series when I teamed with him years ago. This is the best Brandon I've seen. Even though they got 4th, and I'm really big on team before player, Brandon was amazing. He was amazing this event. I mean,
the numbers in terms of KD certainly reflect that story. He had some great numbers at the major. It's kind of interesting to me, the fact that he doesn't actually have that many 30 bombs. It seems to me that he's either frying, or I guess maybe his SMGs are frying, and therefore he doesn't have to do too much. If you look at 30 bomb tracker here from Brian's stats, Envoy has the most at 16, then Sib at 12, then Pred, Hydra, Wake, and all this type of stuff down here. Actually, none of the OpTic guys are on this list. The most that an OpTic player has right now is still Scump at 5 5 30 bombs, which is pretty mad because he retired quite some time ago. Shotzzy has 4. Dashy actually only has 3, but it's funny the fact that 2 of his 3 30 bombs are 41 bombs. So it seems like whenever he goes off, he absolutely goes off, and it's obviously by the eye test as well been critical in some of OpTic's beneficial situations over the last couple of weeks or so. Without Dashy playing as he did against Boston, for example, obviously people say, oh wow, OpTic got top 4, they were so close to top 3 if things go different against Thieves, but they were also arguably very close to top 6 or worse, because the way they beat Boston, that 3-0, like those maps could have gone very differently. A couple of different plays there. If Dashy doesn't get that crazy piece up against Boston, could have been a very different series indeed. But it wasn't. Dashy bailed them out. The question is to me, can Dashy maintain this in the long term? Yes, at the present time, he might be the best player on the planet. He might be playing like at an unbelievable level. Is that sustainable over time? We saw some series where the entire team would drop a 0.95, Dashy would have a 1.4 and they'd win. It's like, well, that probably can't keep up forever. We saw that at the major when Dashy didn't have a 1.4 and had, let's say, a 1.05, the team generally loses. So that's where they might be looking, it might be time to upgrade the firepower of iLLeY, just because they can't always rely on Dashy to be doing all of their saying from an AR perspective, which I think is understandable as well. Where does iLLeY go in this equation? Who knows? There's been some talk about Florida. There's also been some talk about the Seattle Surge, right? I don't know if that's really, an option, but obviously iLLeY seems to me like, he is still a very young player. So him replacing accuracy would be strange, but maybe there's an argument for it, right? He does have those leadership characteristics. He obviously wants to be on the revenge tour. It was very clear when iLLeY was dropped by OpTic in the summer, when he replied and said, see you guys next year, that, he was coming for blood, and they've dropped him now, so I'm sure he's still coming for blood. Wherever he goes, we might get some rumors on that over the coming days, but, could be Boston, could be Florida, could be, potentially Surge, although I'm sure that's not going to happen immediately, though, because what they say, they're not making any changes going forward. Did want to mention this before we close out as well here. So this is the flanks tier list they put together, and I was going to mention this yesterday, but then all the OpTic stuff happened. So this is what they came up with. Just wanted to mention a couple of things on this. I thought generally they did this quite well. The way that I kind of look at these tier lists is like, what is the percentage chance that team wins an event if there was an event tomorrow or this weekend or something? FaZe are clearly in a tier of their own. Then you've got the A tier, where Thieves, I think, understandable, they're going to be there. The B tier to me is quite interesting. Ultra, if anything, have been, I don't exactly know what it is with Ultra, but that always looks so good online. But I think they were top 6 at both of their LAN placings so far, and honestly had a very bad Saturday, a terrible Saturday at the major. It was a weird Saturday with all the 3-0s, but nonetheless, they got blown out of the park. Don't know if they kind of lack that Bance-esque figure that can get them on the same page again if they're struggling. Something that's missing for this Toronto team, it feels like right now, to really take it to the next level, certainly when they get to the business end of tournaments. The team that I wanted to mention here, because I feel like the rest of it's okay, and I didn't really want to talk too much about OpTic, of course, because who knows, is the subliners, though. I feel like putting the subliners down in B tier here is honestly kind of underrating what they're able to achieve. Yes, we know that teams that usually win Major 1, it's tough to maintain that level of performance going forwards, as it wasn't here, but their weekend, has some caveats. They arrived very last minute, the last team to the venue. Kismet wasn't even playing in his own clothes. He had some stuff he got from down the street. He was frustrated about the situation. They played very first game of the day, lost game 5, round 11 to Rokkr, an eventual top 3 team, and then they played Thieves in the losers bracket, lost a 3-0, but a very tight 3-0 in terms of the maps, and they came second in the end. So subliners, I think, are better than their performance or their placing here indicated. I still think their respawn is pretty much impeccable. Like, their teamwork is on point. Their search and destroy, that they were 0-4 this weekend. I don't expect that to continue in the same way that FaZe, I don't expect them to win 15 of their next 16 search and destroys like they have on 15 of their last 16 search and destroys. In the same way, I think subliners will improve, maybe get back to 50% in search and destroy, and their teamwork in respawn is right up there with FaZe and Thieves. So to me, I would even put subliners probably still in the bottom half of the A tier. I still think there's more to come from this team. As even I said earlier in the video, right, it wasn't long ago everyone was saying that Hydra is the best player in the game, hands down. They've still got Hydra, still playing very well, but people forget very quickly when things don't go their way. So I do want to say that if subliners fix their search and destroy, I still think they are a very strong candidate here to potentially win more events this season. But very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.